It is also a great privilege to have with us today His Holiness the 17th Gyalwang Karmapa Oginchilne Dorje, head of the Karma Kagyu tradition. May I now invite His Holiness to come up to the stage and address this distinguished audience.
강기 동진이 손에 다와 탐지방 비치 담배 취연의 된서 고담대라 차지하러 안 드린데 기지 남배 손을 뒤돌려 집유 남배 계획신이 남부당 안다는 신기 출시 the Gindung de Dana Singi Depebe Gundru Nabalingi Samlo Liange Sabjidang Gundu Shuyu.
Today I would like to give my welcome and pay my respects to all of the Kalyana Mitra spiritual friends who have come today, to all of the members of the Sangha of the four directions, as well as to all of the guests. I would like to welcome you and give you my respects.
Kasa Tambachevimina and conclusion summary. Jugdom Kablia Gesia Chebre. Kasa Lubudu and Unjie Kablia Gesia or Sumre, Jidangara Lochujuche, and Anna Singi Kandaji Tori Milia, the Tandung Lojon Chakwa Mangushje in Dusan, Digwene, and Nabalingi Su, and Dundelia, Kamisha de Dang Watsaruji, and Dodi Imiang, and the G. Kogam di Susu the Gaba Sangbuji, Kogabimba, Muzi Shushe, and Tsikashi Shuchot.
I was actually supposed to speak at the conclusion to the conference, but it was changed at the last minute. Now, I'm still young, and in all respects, there are many areas which I still need to study. And so for me to speak in front of all of you is a little bit embarrassing. And yet at the same time, I feel that this is a good opportunity and a great fortune.
Tame Kensen Shire, Anzu Japabe Yudi, the Sangi Dembe June Sana Jandu, Dana Singi, Dajak Dumbegi, Zijin. Jongsegi Yuju Kashimur Chadiare, Jazan Nangarabni Sundi, and Yuju Tatebe, Gibutama Mabuchiki, Gange Yachama with Jeche, and Japa Yulia Pe, and it's Nambe Netisunche, and Dana Singi Yaragi, Nambegi, and Suru, to get the Lojo Nache, and Rasusuki, Ujulia Panamne. And a temper target. Na that jiggy, that devil used to have. The new Sane Jidang Yagapabe Yulia, Navasangi be, Tembalia, Pidip Shimbuchu ready, Ibinia, Tadalaria. Azu Zamnik you to Tatebe, Tatebalia, Target Shumbe, Nanding, Jinjubutsu, Younger Yagapabe Yulia, Zomche. And a lion just sangi temba. Last one I see down. And a Udindi Nalolia and a 라량 지 낭댕기 루규 리우 사바치차 드리지기 가르보다 고급 드리 좀들이야 마랑외네 미세기 ane gazor dang pobachim kedus.
As all of you know, this noble land of India is the land of the origin of the Buddhist teachings. And so this is the place where the Buddha himself actually came. And for that reason, it is a very important country. And then over the course of history, many different people from different countries came to India from the four directions. They saw the places of Buddhism, they studied the teachings, and then they brought the teachings back to their own lands and spread the teachings in their own lands. Now this is all the past history. So now here, as of course we all know, the Buddhist teachings did suffer a great decline here in India. But for now, for all of the people to come from all the different lands where Buddhism had spread and to gather once again in this land of India, I think this is another great opportunity for our Buddhist teachings that once more they may flourish in this land of India. And so for myself, I feel like this is a great opportunity that I have in this lifetime. I'm delighted to have this opportunity and I have a lot of confidence.
다당 아주 지 난댕기 진주 봐서 상원 냠수 좀 세기 다양 가수에 산에지 차디게 와래 제산디 유르디나 디토리아 가다지 난댕기 루규 조름 트레리아 아네 지케 가수에다 내가 지진 개네 처망부지 경세기 내를 지당 엔드리샤디가래 제상에 들이대야 에네다 아주 남배기 추규 민제에 기부 망부지 대패 대바 디트레리아 나랑은 균 개치슈지 가르통도 슬라비미나 아주 남부상계에 난댕기 쉐데 베서기 콜로는 신디 상기 좀 된 대기 다스 주나무들이세 다지게다 세기 콜로더부디 만주지 추규 규범이 저와다 안다나 신기 가수라다 팀뷰기 틱본 민제의 왕기 차시에당 동부소소소소 계속 이미나 아니 상기기 때문에 다 세기 콜로디 바지다 가수지 명명으로 차려야지 자디가 말해 제자인 지미지 아주 틱베진 범민 저와다 다나시 규범 민제외기 아니 차시 용수 조배 아니 상기 때문에 세기 콜로더부디 아 마냥바지 용알이야 알아도 남핀지 지기질이야 내가를 하베기 에네다 당나당 엔 튠지 안다나 신기 탐지 지규 용과야디 상기 때문에 타게 용아 다나 신기 때문에 좀 상기 좀 된 대기 공부는 신 지심견 리기 줘야기 시즈르지 바정안수 낭핀주 지기질이야 자진 제바 상부 지과디 개심을 면로 상부지 전되게
And so in the past, the noble land of India was a hub from which the teachings of the Buddha spread all over the world. And now it is a place where all of the teachings, where people from all of the different traditions of Buddhism can now gather together. And so in this respect, when we think about the history of the Buddhist teachings, And this situation we are in now, this is a place where we can do a lot of work. It's a place where there's a lot of activity to be maintained. And so now all of us are people from different Buddhist traditions and different Buddhist lineages. And what I see as being very important is that these teachings of the Buddha are like a golden wheel that the Buddha has given us. And if we see ourselves as being people of different lineages, people of being different traditions and different factions, and do not come together, then it will be as if this golden wheel that the Buddha has given us will disappear. And so what is important for us is, although we come from different countries and different lineages and different vehicles, we all need to gather together in order to be able to preserve this golden wheel that the Buddha has given us. And in order to do that, it is important that even more so than before, we need to have harmonious connections between each other. We need to view each other with pure connections and to have the same unified commitment in order to be able to spread the Buddha's teachings, in order to be able to bring happiness to sentient beings as the Buddha has wished. The foundation to be able to do this is for all of us to have the connection of respecting and considering each other sacred. And I see this as being very important.
나와도 딩상기 아니 두름 니즈지베 두름 디나로랴 엔점부 아주 진조미기 아니 칭외베기 가수다 응외베기 아니 야게랴 직침부로 개침부지 디토안에 아니 다 디기 뭐마를 토야지 기 매주를지 체네 다가다 응외베기 제수 종네 다당 아주지 가서다 컨슈머리즘 서머베 진제가 토안 다가다 미상으로 칭외베기 뇌암 체시 체진 로디가래 진제 거리야 아니 지 가서래 다 내드 세트업 탑시 약슈디 가르레스나 아주지 knowledge 서머베다 드가스징 안주 직딘베 남주 잠고 고미셔 아주 고야다 가르레스나 의기 딱 시제기 차네 아주지 삼동당당 군주 개당 안다나 신기 에네 시제가 뜻줄이야 교머시비미나 아네 아주려야 지 information 빈지 체지 토네네아데 다나 신기 니준자면제 지 information 당 아네 고도 망부제비미냐 대기 시제 교화동미도 버지 니주 차디야래 제가 니제 거리야 나무 상계비기 저번에 좀 된 얘기 송배 딱 한다 지 심 서머로다 군롱선나다도 심사디 아니 기디기베 시저로디 셈이바 송여베 인두산에 디균센된 제가 가셔 나부상계비기 다 메시지 선나다도 야만의 최기 닝부디 남배 진주부점도 마세베 전불링베 질이야 권고유에 대비시당 대야 아니 가족 구독이 다 내가 유에 대비시 개딩 아주에게 조민 대감디 다대급이야 참조 세모도 의미나 아니 지구료이네야래 난기 조아 편중 디기 이네야래 참을이야 징에 첨부지 용아이 민주산에 디균센데네 아주 남바 참액이 뉴버지도 뽕체 나바상기비 최기님부디 엔점링 칸슬이야 지 캡데도 줘야지당 지조 나로리야 지조 잠미데 나로리야 에너지 캡베체 토과디 개점르지 동기
Here in the 21st century, it is a time when human beings are experiencing great development in terms of external things, and consider external things to be extremely important. Because of this, people follow after external things and then become consumerist. And through having this consumerism, then all sentient beings have more and more difficulties and more interest and difficulties because of the external things. And so what is the best way to be able to eliminate these is knowledge. But in the world these days, it's not just the knowledge of worldly things that we need. We cannot just follow the worldly things, but rather we need to think about the different, we need to understand the foundational things, the foundation of what causes our happiness and so forth. And so we need to think about the foundations. And in this society, we have all sorts of different information. We have all sorts of different science and so forth. And we develop a great understanding of all of this. And yet this is not able to change fundamentally how we see things fundamentally. And so it is as the Buddha said, it is whether we call it our mind or whether we call it our motivation, it is the mind that is the foundation of all virtue and misdeeds. So this is the message of the Buddha. This is the essence of the Dharma teachings. And this is something that is important, not just for Buddhists, but for all of the people everywhere in the world. And this is a very important point. And so here, all of us who have gathered together, if we are not able to do this, if we are not able to find a way to help people develop this, then this is something that will bring great destruction to our world environment as well as to our own internal happiness. And so all of us Buddhists must gather together, gather our forces all together into one so that we can make the teachings, the essence of the Buddhist teachings spread throughout the world. And so that it can fill all of the different societies that we live in. I see this as being very important.
아주 벽이 난데래야 예외 롱주라 가시리야 개개 첨부지 트에네 냠자 첨부지 다 중요하래 이미네야 안에 공사 경고 좀 쳐고 우티베 아주 다 벽이 나버 상계베 다 개외 신년의 기부 담보지 주기 우티고 와려야 다 비밀 상물로 진짜 다 강에 ngar luju thol chunung mebe je kangye lia tongle chen tandung mutu ne ane tar jawa tang melam tempo cheche ta mutu ne ya ji dra ye di zo di ta na ba sangge be ta che chilib senan jang de che nu ba senan jang 다 딜 가르쳐도 닝도블 대체 총대버지 봐 아주 삼에다 무지 세브를 두스 쇼요래 대다 디싱 점링이 토려야 예배지 남배기 지존 점밍 나로리아 강에 망부지 용되게 하래 배나 예배차려야 양지조 가시에 나로리아 지 낭바당 지 출루 현다 초배버루리아 겐데 니즈진제냐 칼라칸스를 종디아래 임비냐 대다 탐지 아주 나부상계비에게 낭데니 송배지 시럽的니지 냠래 천대지 나베 토네 아니 탑케기 고네 타주의 상부스 나무 이미나 창으로 가셔야다지 저바 창마 지 시디 나리아 제가说저바 창마 최저 시선한 장도 저바 창마 둠투야르 니지비 인두산에 단 도낭 안주 지 남배의 최디 몽데 점이바 균zen의 대비 슈루차되어래 대야 균zen 사디 레베 나로래야 코아 예베점시당 지 아이디어 예베점시 뭐이바 대야 우리 니즈 소소 미진낭당 지조 나로래야 펜도 예대베 우리 펜데 예베다 주로 루치드네 샤디어데 인두산에 ngazu nge bardo la lengwe tholiya ane drotu ga dida kechum star chadi ga do samruchi attending you
In the past few decades, the Buddhist teachings in Tibet have faced great difficulties and problems. But because of the leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, many of the great spiritual friends of the Tibetan tradition, many great lamas and great beings, have been able to help. And so for this reason, for all Tibetan beings, even though we have faced a difficulty such as we have never seen before, we are still able to have steadfast hopes and steadfast aspirations. The main factor in this has been, you could call it the blessings of the Buddha, you could call it the power of the Dharma. At any rate, it is this courage, and it is because of this courage that we have been able to do this, as everyone says. And so similarly, in modern times, in many different countries and societies around the world, there are many different difficulties that do occur. In recent times, as we have seen, there have been religious conflicts between Buddhists and members of other religions. And so when such conflicts and so forth happen, if we are able to have an authentic practice of Buddhist wisdom and Buddhist compassion, then I think that by actually using the skillful means, we will be able to resolve many of these conflicts. We will be able to reduce the problems. And so we could say that we would be able to take all of the disputes and pacify them in a Buddhist manner. And so for that reason, I think that our Buddhist religion is one that is unlike any other. Ours is a religion where we have reasons. Buddhism is not just a religion of blind faith. We have reasons for what we say. And these reasons are not just mere understanding that we have in our brain, nor are they merely ideas. Instead, Buddhism, it is the actual nature of things. We can see that Buddhism is a religion that brings us benefit in our lives and in our societies. And so I see it as being extremely important that we actually put it into practice.
다 너는 다 타마들이야. 다 드리디 아자디 다 소디 다 드리디 아주 유주타데 방법이네. 나베 주규 타데베 다지 담보 방법이 대표의 인도스단에 다 디수다 지 가수로다 편주 젠제 용을 삼으로 딘지지게 통하네 몇바체제 용마도베 당년에 지 송시에로 제제 안드제 토하는 지 스피치 대야 더 조지장랑 개면 지지 용메스 나드린 주산은 디간다다 가상 아니 람사 지 디린지 시야고래 수미인자 안데 저리스다 개면체 안데 저 따이미네 나랑 요아 거든 소로 디미비인자 안 개바스 개면도 땅도나 타된til이야 아주 지 유주타 대비 지 남배 추균지바 참으로 지당 지 유바 준비민자 지당 시주민자인데 시바민자인데 용디 야르디 이메냐 시제차네 아주 땜바지당 땜바지임디 더 서비스라 차디 야래 제상 아주 양이 양도 안들이 좀세 편준 더 지금 지기 시에베 토네 간다지 편주 유련당 아니 어제 상부 충분히 유세 양아서 나바 상기베 상로 가서다 편주 지 타나당 이세 녀베 중앙지당 안 대유네 아주 진점을리야 리기드 내베 마음바 사바지 준토야기 말합시다.
Finally, I would like to say that the reason I have come to this conference is in order to meet and to make a good connection with all of the great masters who have come from many different Buddhist countries and many different Buddhist traditions. I have not come primarily to give any speeches. And so yesterday, when Lama Lobsang asked me to speak today, of course I had no time to make any preparation, but that is not important, because the most important reason for me to come here is not to speak to you. And so I would like to finally say that we have all come from different countries. Our traditions are slightly different. We have different ways of slightly different ways of explaining things. But fundamentally, it is one Buddhism and there is one teacher. And so for us to be able to come here and gather here and to make connections with each other and to develop our traditions together, I think is a cause that will help us create more pure perception of each other and pure perception of Buddhism. And that will then cause bring happiness throughout the world. And this is my aspiration.
아니 아주 라말로상 아주 학삼다 다나 신기 엔다간다 액티브 시다여야 되지 드지기 가서지 다 시에서는 자도 다 간다 쉬어다 쉬당 거 신민도 간다 드리지 제산들이 공기 엔지집에 organized 나체 eng아서 성로려야 지 가서에 나버상기 상로 냠도 좀체 에네 제바샤기 긴고 상보를 뒤뒤 남들이야 나랑외네 미스 터지는 샤인
And especially Lama Lobsang is someone who has great enthusiasm, great pure vision, and he's very active. And I don't know how to call him a friend or what to call, but whatever it is, he has organized this event, and all of us Buddhists have come together and gathered here. It is like he has opened a door for us to make a great connection. And so I would like to make an especial thank you to Lama Lobsang.
If I may be forgiven a few ruminations and thoughts on the basis for interfaith dialogue as articulated by my teacher, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I think he is frequently taught that just as we each have different mental dispositions and need different mental diets, so different religious traditions are appropriate for people with different mental dispositions. And that is the essence of the harmonizing influence and role of interfaith dialogue. May I invite on stage His Holiness the Karmapa? I'm afraid so, Your Holiness. May I welcome our distinguished panel here this evening for what in the context certainly reaching out beyond the Buddhist conference itself is perhaps the seminal event of this conference, is that we live in an interdependent world, and as I was beginning to articulate, that we live in the context of diverse religions and philosophies, and the relationship between them and the harmonious coexistence between them has become crucial to the very survival of our planet, and has also become crucial for each tradition to evolve techniques, strategies, and mechanisms to live in harmony and understanding and peace with other traditions. We thought that a useful starting point for the conversation this evening, and we had hoped it will be a conversation, but we have already lost 30 of the 90 minutes that we had, was to invite each speaker to speak for a few moments, 4 or 5 minutes, articulating what is it in their respective traditions that facilitates and encourages not just tolerance, but the celebration of diversity. Because we do need to move beyond the purely sort of syncretic, synthetic articulations where interfaith leaders get together and say wonderful things about each other and then go out into the world and it unfolds somewhat differently from these aspirations. So I think the aspiration of the conference per se has been a concrete, practical one to identify specific initiatives and measures that different traditions can take to facilitate the celebration of diversity, even as we recognize the elements that are common to different traditions.
If I could invite His Holiness the Karmapa to make a few comments on behalf of the Buddhist community and as someone himself who is deeply committed to the interfaith discourse that will help the congregation here to bring the discussion and the ideas here together into perhaps a plan of action.
다 드링 아니야 내가 니자르지 다나 쇼베지 셰 양 드링 건 드링 양지 셰 말했음 전에 다네 부유 삼르지 봐 다도 타바 토송 삼 전에 양가지 양지 셰 고유자 아니 드링 대페베 딱 구루당 다나시 이마음당 and father there's a sama luliage kasweda ngarange ngwene tana singi zu nangbe ngwene kuna solia ene welcome de pebdelia kaswai.
I feel it's a little unfair. I've got 2 things that I'm supposed to do today. I've got this childish thought that I had to say something this morning and I have to speak again this afternoon. But I would first of all like to begin by offering my welcome to all of the gurus, imams, father, and everyone who's come here. First from my own perspective, and also on the behalf of all Buddhists.
지단다 추루 핀준 토리아다 interfaith the 가르다지 conference yam gathering the Mongolia 차카시ang 아 전유에 지단 당부치 가르에 다 임비네야 당기 코나 수문의 시대 아 델리아 가르에지 강에를 가통고르스나 는 비용코나 public 미마 소리야 kalobnan bisa same jin ra chakborji ande ji karwe ngati jilia interfaith ji dronyu ye di dusane kona chulu shinda de ngazu nam gyun gyora en jamru da de gyoryong karwe 디기 급 디두산 내급 텔이야 아빠지 강글로 지구 차송송선으로지 가서다 튠부시 차송선으로지 다이민의 디 차베 제리아 디 갑로리아 에야 남규남시 지 슐루핀즈 다당디 남규남시 제제야 가서에 지 켄사르지당 야나 지 가서에다 मथुबी नाबदी थंदुई ने ला दे आरबची योंदी दो ताती करलेसना ज पब्लिक माजो गिले आता ड्रा छाजा सिया दे फजीता करवे चीजन लेला बरबची दा अने जी दा को छेपसी गोंगो यु गिरे संगो ता इबिने के शिशुदी rāng sūsū kī chūlū kī jīnchū bō tsua tāng ān dāna shīng kī sūsū kī nāng kī mī sō liyā ān ngō chū kandē chī kī yō mē sā dī bēn chūlū shindā dī sū liyā chūlū shindā dī sū ngō chū chī dū sā nē dē shē kandē kī yō bā ān dāna shīng lōb sū kandē chī kī yō mē sā dī ngā chū dī interfaith relationship yō ā kā tā shī zir bī dī bā jī tē chā dī yō rē sūm chāng kī yō
I have been to several interfaith gatherings, and when I have been there, it is as has been said. The difficulty I see is that we often, when we are in public, we speak one way. It seems all okay, everything seems to work out. But at home, it's a different matter. Like at some gatherings, we all get together, we all recite things together, we might recite refuge together, so forth, and at that point, we may feel like we're all the same. We feel like we're all getting along very well. But then afterwards, what happens is we revert to our usual way of thinking. We think about other religions in the way we would normally think about them, and we think about the differences in the areas where we don't get along with them. And so what is the reason for this? The reason is that when we're in the public, then it's very easy, and perhaps it's also a little political. But when what is really most important is how is it that we teach about other religions to the people of our own religions, to our own people? How do we explain the other religions when we teach about them? How do we educate our people? I think that this is actually the foundation of interfaith dialogue.
Nyewe chalia dozden en nambe da ne lia en karjwe barge ne dun chungbre tedu sane en mil same lamsa ji karjwe ada bam jange sur sidu san lamsa ji karjwe shumato gi ji mimawaji ji kaji gyabre sarbuji da dini ji gi yonde ine gyumze yorbesan gyumze yoman 다이미네 kuzuji lamsa gyunze mebe thone andri dishu gyawa chondi gyare dadi karasana nge tidusane ngarang ge choarabdi ene dadi gyunze zane mebsiliya mi chame tinde chengwa gyunze karina samrabji 지다 디소로 제제 미상으로리아 지 파장 냠바스네 장도 야나 가스보다 따당 로버스네 장도 아 드리지 용데도 성도 스테니 인두스탄에 따딩 아주지 추루 전부 낭 편주점도 마세 베랑 아주 낭바 상계바 낭 편주리 미냥 대강에로 좀 망고 샤 디강에디 아주리아 망고 제거 베랑 아주 배를 샤샤비나 별이야 에너지 추규 따 조체를 제비는 시 용어디가 따 디나로 편주네야 남규 지 가수에 양 고고 수수리야 양 디스 편주 지 가수에 에지 가수에다 추규 시다디디 지라 마랑바지당 마랑바당 다나시 에네 만지버버 딘데 그런 제주에로 망부체제 간다야 지 디펜줄레 가수다 지 강에로 녀르르 망부 용디가래 드린 따띠 가르차디 어렸으나 나즈기 다 출루기 우티스는 장도 아 다나 신기 안 취제 바랑 수수뇌네 게임먹으로 지당 오늘 전에기 가수에다 의 니수리아 심주 맞을 체제 잘조 진주를 채와 디균전 때네 강에도 망고 지원되기 어려성도
For example, recently there was the bombing of the Buddhist sacred site in Bodh Gaya. And what happened is immediately after this, everyone said, who is it who did this? And there are many people who said, oh, it must have been Muslims who did this. Was there any reason for them to say this? There's absolutely no reason for this all. But they immediately leapt to conclusions and said and explained it in this way without any reason for this. And so, what is this from? My feeling about this is that there's not really any real reason for it. We have this with our attachments to our own ethnic groups and so forth. These are like bad habits of thinking or wrong ways of thinking. And so when it comes to interfaith relations between religions, or even when we talk about relations between different areas of Buddhism, we have many difficulties that come up. For example, within Tibet, we have primarily four main different religions, or four main different lineages of Buddhism. And among them, there have been many instances where people have criticized them or said that this is not a right or so forth about the other traditions. And this has created many difficulties and many problems in Tibet. And so why is this? It is primarily because all of us religious leaders and all of us who practice Dharma have not taken the responsibility. We need to look at the nature of how things are as they actually are. We have not done that, and because we have not, that has created the difficulties.
Today in Lusane, ane Kashurada, Chidan number Sangi being Kashurji, Sangi Jumden Degi, and Chava the Nijidang, and Danish Sugum Chiadang, and forgive Chiada, that the Makusun are. This somebody Nasiji, Dangazu, the Nabeji Jubutse, Yamsu Lengua, Chadi already. 이번에야 저 소수기 수신도 냠서 말렘밤 간달직 최대 녀모 변념벌이야 멋심치 아니 지 가서에 니지다 잠니지사 돼서에 저 소수 가사 소수기 에너지 가서에 촉도를 되술이야 아니 잠니지체 소수 마가삼 저 소수 촉도 많이 되술이야 아 버지 잠니지 곰세 미유세난다도 따디기 가르쳐 콩리야 뭐주베서 따데 용디가래 따디 나버상게비 최기 가르쳐다 교회스게 저거 말해 조다 최 냠소 렘바보 소소소다 교회를 차디가래 드인비사나 따디 소르제제 딱 한당 안수 지 가르쳐 칸에 가르쳐지 인터페이스 다안지 가르쳐지 줄로 리메사도 셰디아디지 망부지 군유에서다 깔레르 카즈데 비케즈데 망부 코 망다르 최 에너지 디브르스다 미야 메두사네 데디 케즈디 지 가르쳐에 게몰와 게즈 소르치마도베 지 문에 전에 지고 예베 게즈지 차투 메브르지 디니지 삼성 소화용데도 디니두사네 에네 나랑 외네 임비냐 지단다 하나다 계사 차서상로 남배기 구유지나는 차로 충분해 드린 인류산지 소소 다 슈모토기지 랑기 안게지 남바 인사베 뮤지엄디 제디에 따이비네 나줄이야 저와 치슈디 가르도스나 나주 남바 인사디 레라버지 랍토버지리아 이네 아주 미상버지 인사디 레라버지 랍 미토비 균센디 가와토도 알았잖아. 아니 가수에다지 아주 나 소소 쿠유다 가수에 치기 슈겐 될 때제 소소지 인 바로 롬바 마도베 우니스 돌아 미상버지 차마도 비내다로다 도차데 여드니 인두산 디균센데네 안 사메 녜바르도 지 그라운드 레벨 세나다도 ngui ni zu tholia an chame ji ka shwe gomba shebe thone dan do na ji tusam she kwa ka shwe da ji interfaith sa de keshin ba yimba chi de ka shwe de ngui ni zu tholia la len ke bi na ani chumje suen to ya ji be da gomba she kwa da keshin ba
And so, generally, in Buddhism, we talk, the Buddha taught about love, compassion, patience, and forgiveness. He said many things about this. And this is something that we need to practice as he taught it. But for many of us, we are not individually able to practice it as it is said. And for that reason, when we do the practice of the Dharma, it does not become true practice of the Dharma. When we practice love and compassion, this is something that we find easy to practice for those of our own party, for those of our own group. But it is not so easy for us to meditate upon those who are in another group or who are in another party. We do not focus on them, or we do not think of them with love and compassion. And so when we do this, what is it? It is not really the Buddha Dharma. And so this practice of Dharma is faulty. This is incorrect practice. And so we often talk about interfaith dialogue. We say this orally. We say that we are non-sectarian and interfaith. We say this so much that sometimes I feel like this is almost laughable that we say this. It is laughable to say it. There is no weight to our actual words. This is the feeling that I sometimes have. So for me, when I was born in a Buddhist environment, surrounded by Buddhists, and everywhere around me was Buddhist, and so naturally I automatically identify myself as Buddhist. But this is the biggest question that we need to think of for ourselves. It is easy for us to say that I am a Buddhist, but it is not so easy for us to say that I am a good person. And so we need to look at what does the reason for this come down to. So because of our environment, we may imagine that we are good Buddhists, but actually in the way that things actually are we truly good Buddhists? So we need to take a look at how things are and consider them carefully, not just how we imagine them, but I think it is important that we actually practice things with what they are on the ground. And then I think we can have the confidence that we can produce some results.
아니 ngana desaliya chu nambe dana khasa zamni chulu khagi da sungrab ben Quran da Bible sa da sanglo ye diji chaye tadi da stik samgwe cha zama masebe tadi ngana mise delia khashwe di khashwe tani be chwar shon 가르사는 디디 아주 ngui ni zu tholia nga chamlo jig de de ba interdependent somar ba ta dindiji ne da chon tholia de ya re tana nga zu se dang kwe dang wu gi gyo chun je sanglo pen su jig ji le ya de ji de ya re dindiji gi ene ka shwe interdependent ka shwe da jig de ru jig na lo le ya nga ra zu sanglo gunyom re 추부의 장비 야와 말에 다나지 출루래야지 총면사 야와 말에 상로 에너지 개체념 상로 인탄치 좀 찍고 다태야 인탄치 좀 찍고 써야돼 가서에 ndeshe gyabde ba tsama yeba ngwe ni sulia sosogi ta khandar khashwe existing delia ji penyo yede ba tindiji 가서에 개침부지래서 아직 차디어래 드니도 뒤준전 되는 안 상로리아 가서 이제 respect 선한다도 가면을 체디게 네 팅질이야 군류 여름지 모스크 질이야 페두산에 디두산에 아주디 가시 이마음들 가시지 대 지대요 고난 수기 아니 군조리아 가르다 라리아 소와트디스나 라바니 겐지 지소와탐능도와 라바니 도시 아니 야와름치게 아니 버지 남규응 아주 아니 상계래야베 가르에 남규응 아주 남바는 신 가르다 테모로 앉아서 능도 섬들이 지야서 드린두산에 초지는 아주 테모 자디 가르에 97로 만라지 아주 남산 참참 따드니지 라보겐 게임지 가지고 비치는 돈 닦고 가지래도 선서로 지나산 오늘 세비는 디지 가르에 다 지루 만라지래 마도베 되려야 난되디 아점로 난되디 지부차되어 참마 규지당 참지당 다나시 소금차 난되지고 임치 드니 인두상 아주 책을 미되면치 되는 된거야 지당 다나 신기 강사라마 되면 제 철된 거에서 시작해 좀 이미다 삼층이 안 다된들량 드린데 계시아 고급 좀 시작하고 좀 아니 마음발에 아주 된 담배 지 인터페이스 상부지 용토야 지기 저하시고 네 충분히 이미나 좀린 그 마음바디 오늘 지 가지고 알레게 상하지 용그레 삼비 이시
In my quarters, I have all of the different religious texts of the world. I have a Quran, I have a Bible, and so forth. And I have them there not just for display. I have them there because I feel like it gives me a feeling of being close to other religion traditions. We all are dependent upon one another. We are mutually interdependent, and that is the nature of how things are. At a bare minimum, we are dependent upon each other for our food and our clothing and the air that we breathe. And so, for that reason, within this world, there is no difference between rich and poor. There is no difference between one religion and the other. All are equally valuable. All are equally important. All have the same value and importance. And when we say that they have the same value and the same importance, this is not just saying it. This is actually looking at how things are in and seeing the nature of how things are and how we benefit and harm each other. This is important to see. And so I think it is wonderful that we all pay respect for each other. I really enjoy this. When the Dalai Lama went to visit a mosque, I noticed that when the imams prayed, they prayed with their palms facing upwards. And normally, when we think about this in the Buddhist tradition, we usually join our palms in prayer, and they raise their palms. And at first, it seems like this is maybe some sort of a strange way to pray. But when we think about it, actually, it's a different way of doing it, but the meaning is the same. The meaning of paying respect is the same. It's paying respect, it's having patience, it's meditating on love and compassion. And so this is why it is important to remember that we should not rely on the words. We need to rely on the meaning. We must not rely upon the individuals. We must rely upon the Dharma or the teachings. This is really extremely important. So I would like to close by saying that I am delighted to be here. And I hope that in the future we can have an interfaith dialogue that is truly and ultimately beneficial, to really bring benefit in the world, so that we can have a world realm that will grow better and better.
Thank you, Your Holiness.